Thanks to Clean My Mac for sponsoring this video.
I am thrilled to share with you the newest iPhone. This is iPhone 11.
The iPhone 11. The iPhone 11? The iPhone 11. And the iPhone 11. The iPhone 11 Pro. The iPhone 11. So now the iPhone 11. So when you look at the iPhone 11, I'm done with this. Out with the old, in with something new. So Apple just announced the new iPhone, and if you can believe it, it's the most powerful iPhone ever since last year, and the year before that, and the year before that, and keep going back. We've been talking about this phone, it seems like for 5 years. We talked about the iPhone 12, like we're talking already about the iPhone 38, but it is finally here with all of its awesomeness and all of its disappointments, but at least now, we know. All right, so now that we know what the iPhone 12 is, let me recap what came from the event in case you missed it. All the good, the bad, the disappointing, and all things we're gonna have to wait for next year for. But also, as you look to maybe pick one of these up, should you consider getting, I guess what's considered last gen's iPhone 11. So here's what we saw with the iPhone 12. But I wanna start with the question, did you like the iPhone 5 design? If so, you are going to be quite the happy person. The iPhone 12 takes what I think is the best designed iPhone ever and modernizes it. So it's a all new design with flat, smooth edges, and the pictures looked absolutely beautiful. Available in 5 new colors. So now you've got a really pretty kind of a navy blue, you've got product red, you've got a white version, and you've got a graphite version, which is essentially what the space gray or black one used to be. And last, there's kind of a mint green that we saw with the iPhone 11. So phones usually get bigger and faster. The iPhone 12 actually got thinner, smaller, and lighter. So versus the 11, these are big fast. The 11 was not a big phone. The 12 is 11% thinner, 15% smaller, and 16% lighter. If you could pick on the iPhone 11 for anything, it was the display, right? It was that liquid Retina display. It was LCD. It was a good LCD, but most phones were going OLED, and it was very apparent that it wasn't Apple's top-notch screen. So that's now been fixed across the entire iPhone 12 lineup. It now has sort of their super XDR Retina display. So you get the huge advantages of OLED, right? Each pixel is its own individual light source. So you'll get blacker black, so the pixels are just off. You should get brighter colors, less power drain, and things should just overall look better. All the good stuff with the screen doesn't just stop at OLED. When watching HDR content too, it's got 1200 nits of brightness. So one of the knocks on OLEDs, they don't usually get that bright. Apple appears to have pushed these pixels as bright as they can go. That is crazy bright for a smartphone. So protecting that beautiful OLED display is important. Traditionally, Apple's used some version of Gorilla Glass. They're actually working with Corning to create a brand new material called ceramic shield. They got a little sciencey, but essentially they're growing ceramic crystals on the top of the display. And what that's going to mean is essentially 4 times the drop protection. So you drop your phone, you're 4 times less likely to crack that screen. And I'm always reminded of a Jerry Rig Everything quote, glass is glass and glass will break, but this should at least break 4 times less than the previous iPhone 11. And that is a giant deal. If you don't carry a case or you're prone to dropping your phone, that is a huge reason alone to consider going for the iPhone 12. The cost of a screen replacement, replacing your own phone, might be worth it to just get that built into the device. So on the camera front, if you look at the back of the phone, it looks pretty similar. It's got 2 sensors and the array looks identical to the 11, but there's a lot more there. It's just not in the ultra wide, which is essentially the same as the iPhone 11, the same aperture and the same 12 megapixel sensor that there was before. The wide though is where things tend to get a little bit spicy. So same 12 megapixel, so whatever that is, a different aperture now, it's f1.6, which is a huge deal for low light shots. If you're a low light photographer, this is going to make a giant difference in not only your stills, but also your video. In fact, if you wanna quantify it to a number, it should actually give you 27% better low light performance. So Smart HDR3 is here. We have night mode in video on time lapse, and also night mode in stills across all the cameras, so the 2 in the back and the 1 in the front. Other small improvements with stabilization and video and that kind of thing, but overall, it appears to be not a huge update in the camera department, but a big enough update. That wide angle lens alone, if you do a lot of night photography, having almost 30% better low light performance could in itself be a reason to want to go for an iPhone 12 over an iPhone 11. So Apple still has some surprises. We'd seen magnets in the back of the leaks on the iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max, which did get announced, but we hadn't really seen much about the iPhone 12. They are there, and they are called MagSafe. If you remember, MagSafe is technology Apple used in their laptops for chargers, but this is a new, novel way to charge things. So first, it's still wireless charging. The phone will still work with any Qi charger, but this time it's using magnets to do some pretty cool stuff. So it's 15-watt wireless charging, which is more than double from what we had before. That's a huge increase in wireless charging speeds. And again, it'll work with other Qi chargers, but now it'll use magnets on compatible MagSafe chargers to clip on to the back. So if you're worried about trying to find that right spot on a charger, this eliminates all of that for you. What it also does is enable a bunch of cool accessories, both first and third party. So little wallets that'll slap on the back, car mounts for your car where the phone will automatically stick in. Things that we sort of had before, but you had to have a separate case on to do it. Even Apple's first party cases now will magnetize onto the back. And with those cases, all the magnet stuff will work. And there's a lot of other things in there like NFC and sort of some other magnet tech that's built in. But the moral is charging your phone became a little bit easier right now. If you like the way essentially your Apple Watch charges with that magnetic puck, think of that just bigger for the iPhone 12. And actually this is also true for the 12 Pro. So all the hype is obviously on the new iPhones, but Apple's all about the ecosystem. So chances are you want to use your new iPhone with your Mac. And Macs need love too, and they need maintenance. And the best way to keep your Mac safe, secure, and malware free is with Clean My Mac X. So if you're not familiar with Clean My Mac X, it's a tool and utility that does exactly like it sounds. It declutters and keeps your Mac secure, and now it's available to be downloaded directly from the Mac App Store. Probably one of my favorite features of the software, you can see what apps are doing and taking advantage of on your system. You can see which programs are accessing your camera and microphone. But probably the most popular feature in the whole shebang, it's called Smart Scan. It's gonna go through your whole system for system log files and user cache that's no longer necessary. It's also gonna do a malware check and run optimization tasks, sort of to speed things up generally. And all that happens in just a couple seconds. If you wanna use Clean My Mac X, delete your apps, you can do that too. It'll find all the programs and files that app is using and uninstall all of those for you as well. There's a lot more that Clean My Mac X can do depending on how you want to use it. So if you want to check out Clean My Mac X, and I think you should, you can try it for free and see if it's right for you. We'll put all the information in the links down below. So really to the surprise of nobody, 5G is on the iPhone 12. They brought out Verizon and they were talking about how fast their speeds are, all that kind of stuff. If you're in the US, it'll support both flavors of 5G, so millimeter wave and sub-6, which is obviously a pretty big deal. The rest of the world, depending on where you live, will probably just get the sub-6 variant of 5G, but it's here, it'll enable faster speeds. My big concern was battery life, how that was going to impact battery life. And Apple is doing smart network switching. So when it detects that you need 5G or thinks that you do, it'll switch over when it's available. When not, it'll switch back to LTE. If there's any area of concern with the iPhone 12, that's mine. How 5G is going to impact battery life. It's sort of a big question mark. And how good that switching is, but beyond that, how smart is it going to be? What if I want to use 5G and the phone doesn't think I want to use 5G? Can I overwrite that? Or do I have to sort of rely on the phone telling me what I want? That's kind of a very Apple approach to things, is they'll tell you what you need. But if there's anything about this announcement that gives me a little bit of pause, it's that aspect of 5G. So powering this guy, probably no surprise, the follow-up to the A13 Bionic, appropriately called the A14 Bionic. The first mobile processor they've made on the 5 nanometer. So essentially just very small. 6 cores, a 4-core GPU. What that's gonna boil down to is 50% faster speeds. And that's a big deal. Previous iPhones were already very fast. This is gonna give you plenty of headroom for future years. The A14 I think is a really important chip for Apple, both the X and the Bionic variant. Presumably this is what we'll see in the first Apple Silicon Mac. So I think Apple really has to get this processor right. And I look at it, if it's good enough for a laptop, it's gonna be plenty good and probably over the top in a smartphone. And then Apple kind of had, a bit of a surprise. Did a kind of a little nesting doll thing, and they took out the iPhone 12 mini. Dropped screen size to 5.4 from 6.1. And I think one of the coolest things about it is that's all it drops. It has all these same features down to the ceramic coating, design, color options as the iPhone 12. And that is a really cool thing. Essentially, it's the same size as the SE, just with a full screen display. And that is something a lot of people have been looking for, a smaller, thinner phone that gives you sort of the full power of Apple. Obviously, concerns with battery life, I think, are here in a phone that's smaller and also using 5G. It goes back to that switching, but if you want a smaller display and you want all the power of the iPhone 12, I think Apple's going to sell a lot of iPhone 12 minis. There's also a new box, which is thinner because there is no more power brick or headphones included. Rest in peace. So you know all that new technology is gonna come with a bit of a price jump, and Apple is jumping the price of the 12 $100 versus the starting price on the 11. So it's now starting at $799. If you want to keep the price the same as the 11 for $699, that's where the mini comes in. They're offering it at that just below $700 price point. So I think that begs the question, if you're looking to get a phone right now, are you better off saving the $100 or even more on the used market and picking up an iPhone 11 over the iPhone 12? So the iPhone 11 is a really good phone. It's a phone I purchased for my wife. It's a phone I recommend for most people. And I've admitted it, I am kind of a screen snob, and I look at a lot of displays and I can see the LCD display, but I think if you're not looking at two phones side by side, the display still looks really good on the iPhone 11. If you are the type of person that wants the best display out there, then certainly that's a reason alone to go for the 12. But I don't think it's the only reason why you should consider the 12. In fact, despite the 12 having a much better display, I think you're gonna be okay with what you've got on the iPhone 11. A big reason to upgrade, and if you don't put your phone in a case, the ceramic screen, the ceramic coating that's on the iPhone 12 might be the killer feature and must have for the iPhone 12. My wife has her phone in a case, and I've had to take her phone back to Apple twice for drops and scratches, and once when she even cracked the screen, and that is with one of the Apple Silicon cases on. So if the ceramic coating is as good as advertised, if it really does offer that 4 times protection, that may be a reason. And I know I talked a lot about how good the A14 is, now 50% faster. I'm not really that concerned about the processor in the iPhones. They are always some version of fast, and the A13 is still a beast. So from raw performance standpoint, I don't think you're gonna notice much of a difference, really, versus the A14. Maybe in a year, if you're only gonna keep your phone for 1 year, probably not much of a difference you'll notice. But if you plan on buying an iPhone 11 or buying a new phone now and keeping it for 2 or 3 years, then perhaps you are better off spending the money and getting the 12 and having that extra headroom you'll get as iOS 15, 16, and maybe 17 start to come out and take advantage of that power. On the camera front, I've been really impressed with the photos on the iPhone 11. We used my wife's phone for a family photo shoot. That's how good they are. Unless you're relying really heavily on night mode, then I don't think that's a reason alone to go for the 12 over the 11. Perhaps maybe the biggest reason to stick with the 11 is battery life. The iPhone 11 has beast mode battery. I mean, it has been absolutely amazing how well that phone can last day in and day out. And I'm nervous with the iPhone 12, quite frankly, with 5G. And I'm sure you can turn 5G off and probably get very good battery life. But then it begs the question, what are you paying for if you're not going to use the 5G? So I'm gonna reserve judgment on how good that smart switching is, but presumably it's not gonna hold a candle to the battery life you get on the iPhone 11. I don't know if the A14 Bionic may have some crazy battery saving modes built in. 50% extra performance usually means bigger battery drain. So if battery life is a concern, you'll probably have better luck with the 4G only iPhone 11. So this sort of happens every year with the iPhone, right? There's slight improvements. This time it's a new design, a new screen size, and you could pick which one of those, if any, are that important to you. But I think that the iPhone 11 still represents a really good now value buy of an almost flagship phone. If you don't mind the screen, there's almost no real reason to not get the iPhone 11. If it's screen and 5G are what you need and want, the 12 is there and Apple is eager to take your money, but I still am very impressed with how good last gen's iPhone 11 was. I think for most people, it still represents a really good buy. And if you do decide you want to get a 12, whether the regular or the mini, bit confusing, the dates have sort of been split up for when they're going to be available. So depending on when you're watching this video, on the 16th of October, the 12 and the 12 Pro will be available for pre-order, and then they will ship on October 23rd. On November 6th, the Mini and the Pro Max will be available for pre-order. Then on 11/13, the Mini and the Pro Max will ship. So a few weeks apart, not a giant deal, not like we saw with the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10, but they are staggered by a few weeks, so at least bear that in mind. All right, so that's the iPhone 12s. There's a lot to like. There's also a decent amount that was disappointing about the phone. But all things considered, we know 5G is now officially here, and whether or not cell networks are ready is going to be a very big question. I'm excited for it. Of course, we'll have a ton of coverage coming up, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Enjoy your new iPhones.